Welcome, guys. Welcome back to my channel. Glad that you have returned. And if it's your first time here, I hope that you enjoyed this enlightenment. And let's get into it. This is part two of a video I just released. And this is about the throne burning, right? And you can smell the smoke of endings. It's like a strange quiet before judgment. Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that purifies. Somewhere in the distance, a throne is burning. A seat that once looked untouchable is collapsing under the weight of lies it was built on. That's what happens when false power tries to wear eternity's crown. It burns. We are living in the age where everything hidden is catching fire, where truth is no longer whispering, it's roaring. And every system, every person, every illusion that claim divine authority without divine alignment is shaking, cracking, breaking because the throne, that symbol of control, is not what it used to be. And the real ones, the ones who's been humiliated, overlooked, cast aside, they're being summoned from the ashes to rise. When thrones burn, the truth will speak. You see, fire doesn't just destroy, it reveals. It strips the gold paint off the cheap metal. It exposes what was hollow, what was staged, what was never real. For too long, false thrones ruled through performance. Spiritual thrones built on manipulation. Political thrones built on greed. Family thrones built on control and silence. Corporate thrones built on exploitation. But when divine fire arrives, it doesn't negotiate, it exposes. It pulls the curtain back on every illusion that thought it could sit where God should be. That's why so many people are panicking right now in 2025. Because exposure is not punishment, it's prophecy fulfilling itself. The, the age of pretending is over. The age of pure intention is here. But let's bring it closer. Because the greatest throne that's burning right now isn't out there, it's in here. Inside every person who built their identity on survival instead of truth. Every ego that wore pain like power. Every soul that tried to control instead of surrender. You can't walk in divine authority until you survive the fire of divine correction. And that's what's happening across the world. We're being stripped down to the essence. We're learning that real power doesn't sit on a pedestal, it sits in stillness. It doesn't command submission, it inspires transformation. The throne that once demanded others bow now asks you to rise in integrity. And that's the new order. You don't rule by domination, you rule by vibration, by frequency, and by truth. Exposure feels violent, it feels humiliating. But when heaven exposes you, it's not rejection, it's redirection. Because anything that hides in darkness gains authority over you. And the divine loves you too much to let that continue. So, yes, the fake friendships are burning. The false alliances are burning. The systems that exploited your gifts while starving your soul, burning. And the versions of you that once needed their validation, also burning. That's not loss, that's liberation. You're not losing people, you're losing prisons. The kingdoms of men are shaken because they built their towers without soul. They wanted to be worshiped, not accountable. They wanted control, not compassion. They wanted image, not impact. But the kingdom within you, the quiet place of truth and spirit, has been waiting for this hour. It doesn't need a stage or a title. It just needs a clear vessel. And that's why life has been intense lately, because clarity comes through chaos. And before you wear your crown, you must survive your cleansing. So if you feel like it's burning down, congratulations. You're being initiated into sovereignty. You're learning to rule the one kingdom that matters, your inner world. Look around. The systems of government are smoking. Media, religion, politics, corporations, all recalibrating under divine exposure. The thrones of deceit are burning because they were never anointed, only appointed. They wore crowns made of manipulation and ruled empires made of illusion. But the people, the truth tellers, the light carriers, they are awakening. The fire that once burned them is now burning for them. The rejected are realizing they were never unworthy. They were chosen for revelation. That's why your pain had purpose. That's why your silence had depth. You were being refined to carry what the false couldn't hold. You were never meant to fear the fire. You were meant to become it, to carry the kind of energy that purifies rooms when you enter, to speak in a way that burns deception but warms hearts. Fire is not your enemy, it's your confirmation. Every trial, every betrayal, every exposure, all proof that you were chosen to build what the false destroyed. Because the fire only consumes what cannot ascend, and what remains after is royalty. When the false thrones fall, it's not chaos, it's correction. Heaven is reordering leadership. Voices that spoke from ego are being silenced. Voices that spoke from essence are being elevated. You're watching thrones burn because creation is restoring balance. The meek, not the manipulative, are inheriting the earth. And if you've been faithful in your wilderness, the world is about to recognize you in your fullness. But hear me clearly. Don't chase a throne, build one within, because external crowns without internal character always melts in fire. What survives the fire? Integrity, intention, love that doesn't perform, faith that doesn't depend on applause, and purpose that doesn't collapse under rejection. When your throne burns, what remains is your calling, your anointing, your divine DNA. And that's the version of you the world actually needs, not the version that was trying to survive it. So stop trying to rebuild what God burned. If it fell, it was false. If it ended, it expired. If it burned, it blessed you. There's a new sound rising, the sound of truth tellers who refuse to bow to broken systems. They're not waiting for permission to speak anymore. They're not negotiating with fear. They're standing in the fire, declaring what others whispered. The throne is burning, yes, but that's how you know the kingdom is coming. And this time, it won't be built on lies. It'll be built on living truth, carried by those who have scars and still serve. That's you. That's the remnant. That's the movement. When old empires burn, new civilizations rise. When your old self burns, your divine self emerges. Every betrayal was a prophecy pointing you back to sovereignty. Every exposure was a mirror showing you what you no longer need to protect. The phoenix isn't just a myth, it's a map. You die in public so you can reign in spirit. You lose what was temporary so you can embody what's eternal. So stop mourning the ashes. Start studying them because they're sacred. They tell the story of everything you survived and everything false that didn't. The throne is burning, but that doesn't mean the kingdom is collapsing. It means the counterfeit is being cleared. It means the divine is reclaiming territory. It means you, yes, you are being positioned to lead with light, not ego. Let it burn. Let the old systems crack. Let the false crowns melt. Because the true ones, the humble, the healed, the honest, they're rising. And when they rise, the world will finally know you cannot fake anointing. You cannot counterfeit calling. And you cannot outlast divine fire. The throne is burning, but the kingdom is being born. You don't have to rush to fix what's falling. Let it burn. Let the old systems crack, the false crowns melt. I know. The instinct is to grab the pieces, to patch the image, to prove you can hold it together. But wholeness doesn't come from holding, it comes from honesty. The smoke you see isn't disaster, it's detox. It's the release of everything that no longer serves and belongs to the version of you. That's awakening. So breathe. Don't fear the smoke. It's the sign your atmosphere is clearing. When the noise stops, don't confuse silence with emptiness. It's just that the voices that once ruled your thoughts have no throne left to sit on. You're clearing and hearing the sound of your own soul for the first time without interference. That's what freedom feels like: quiet, wide, and a little uncomfortable. So sit in it, because the silence is strategy. It's the moment before the phoenix lifts. After a fire, vision changes. You notice who's still standing. You recognize what survived. And you realize how much of what you once worshiped was just smoke. Smoke made into gold. The people who loved you for performance will disappear. The ones who saw your purpose will draw closer. That's not loss, that's refinement. The fire reveals alignment. Here's the danger after exposure: rebuilding what burned because it's familiar. We start recreating systems of control and calling it stability. We start repeating old habits and calling it healing. But if you rebuild that same structure with new paint, it's still a cage. So pause before you rebuild. Ask your soul, is this structure sacred or is this survival? Because the divine isn't asking you to return, it's inviting you to redesign. The ashes hold information. Every failure, every heartbreak, every exposure carries coordinates. It tells you where truth lives and where illusion dies. Go back through your memories with new eyes. What did the fire free you from? What part of you tried to warn you before everything collapsed? That voice, that quiet knowing, that's your new architect. Let it design the next version of your life. Not fear, not ego, not desperation. Blueprints born in smoke builds temples, not thrones. Real power after the fire looks nothing like the old kind. The new rulers serve. They listen before they speak. They remember what it felt like to be unseen, and they refuse to replicate that pain. You're not rising to reign over people. You're rising to reign within yourself. That's the shift from empire to empathy, from image to influence, from audience to authenticity. And that's what the world is craving: leaders who've walked through fire and still chose light. You've been tested enough to know what's real now. Your worth doesn't vanish when people withdraw. Your calling doesn't expire because a platform burned. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You are the permission. When you finally learn that your identity isn't built on anything external, you become fireproof, because you can't threaten someone who's already been through flames and found peace. That's what makes you unstoppable. Now the work begins, not frantic rebuilding, conscious creation. You're building communities, movements, art, messages, homes, systems that carry light in their foundation. No more hidden rot. No more false crowns. Everything you build now must be transparent enough for truth to live in it, because the next kingdom isn't made of stone, it's made of spirit. Your voice will be the new currency, your integrity, the new architecture, your empathy, the new economy. There's a moment after every long night when the sky blushes with new color. That's where you are. You're standing between what burned and what's being born. The smoke is meeting sunrise, and that light, that soft golden light, is your new anointing. Not the loud one people post about. The quiet one that glows from the inside when you know you've been chosen to start again. Walk forward with that. No titles, no crowns, just truth. The throne that burned outside is rising inside. It's made of peace, purpose, and presence. No one can sit on it but you. No one can dethrone it but fear. Guard it with grace, rule it with wisdom, share it with love. Because every time you choose truth over performance, the kingdom expands. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate, the fire that once destroyed you becomes the flame that guides you. That's how you turn pain into prophecy. So let it burn. Let the old systems crack. Let the false crowns melt. You don't have to prove your survival. Your peace already does that. And when people ask what happened, tell them the truth. You didn't lose everything. You found yourself. You didn't get left behind. You got set apart. Because when the throne burns, the true sovereign is revealed. The fire is spiritual calibration. It brings you into resonance with your real assignment. Think of it like divine frequency tuning. If something or someone in your life is off key, the fire exposes the disharmony. It burns away what's pretending to be aligned. That's why when you go through the fire, people start falling away. Jobs shift, relationships end. You begin to feel out of place in spaces that once celebrated you. That's not punishment, that's precision. The divine is saying the vibration no longer matches who you're becoming. The fire is God fine tuning your destiny to the right frequency. The fire doesn't just burn outward, it burns inward. It shows you you. It reveals where your motives were mixed, where your ego was steering, where your wounds were speaking louder than your wisdom. That's why fire seasons feel personal. It's not just what they did to you, it's what it awakens in you. You start seeing where you gave your power away, where you built identities around pain instead of purpose. The fire doesn't shame you for it, it shows you where to heal because the healed version of you can hold what the unhealed version would have dropped. That's revelation, not ruin. Spiritually, fire separates matter. It divides the real from the false, the pure from the performative. So when you say the fire reveals alignment, you're really saying the fire exposes where my energy was entangled with illusion. That's why you'll notice after every major fire in your life, clarity comes. You suddenly see who's who. You see what's worth your peace and what's not. You see who was assigned to your life and who was attached to your light. The fire is the great separator, but it's also the great sanctifier. It doesn't just destroy what's not aligned, it protects what is. Fire reveals what's real. Gold isn't gold until it survives the flame. The impurities rise to the surface only when the heat hits. Your life works the same way. Pressure doesn't make you impure, it makes the impurities visible. It's not that you were never gold, it's that you couldn't see your own reflection until the fire refined you enough to shine. So the fire doesn't change your value, it confirms it. It reveals what's authentic by making what's artificial unbearable. Most people meet their calling in fire, not on a mountaintop, not in applause, but in the middle of something that forces them to shed who they were pretending to be. The calling always comes wrapped in confrontation because before you can lead, you have to be lit. And to be lit, something in you must ignite faith, truth, conviction. That's why the fire keeps coming. Not because you did something wrong, but because you're meant to burn brighter. When the fire comes, it reveals four things every time. Your foundation, was it built on faith or fear? Your focus, were you seeking purpose or popularity? Your fuel, Were you driven by love or validation and your future? What is meant to rise from what burned? The fire makes you face those answers honestly, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Because what survives the fire is what's ready for forever. So, yes, the fire reveals alignment. It reveals whether your life is orbiting truth or orbiting trauma. It reveals whether your voice is rooted in calling or in coping. It reveals if your partnerships are built on purpose or convenience. That's why it's divine, because only the fire can test what your eyes can't see. You think you're losing everything, but you're actually losing misalignment. You think your world is collapsing, but it's actually being cleared for construction. Every flame that touches your life is announcing you've outgrown that frequency. The fire is not your enemy, it's your escort into alignment. It's not here to end you, it's here to reveal you. Because until you've walked through what you feared would destroy you, you'll never know what divine power feels like when it's authentically when it's yours. So don't run from it. Stand in it, because when the fire fades, you won't just be aligned, you'll be anointed. And everyone watching will know the fire didn't consume you, it crowned you. Thanks for visiting my channel. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.